Hello, I'm Henry Haddad, and in this video presentation, we'll be going over family-based visas. One of the primary functions of immigration is to reunite families. In this video, you're going to learn which family members can bring you to America and who is an immediate relative. What are family-sponsored preferences? What documents you need for immigration? The application process, and the next action steps. Which family members can bring you to America? That would be your husband or wife, children over 21, brothers and sisters, and parents. These would be classified as the petitioners. The petitioner is their U.S. family member or resident member, and you, the foreigner, would be called a beneficiary. There are different types of family petitions, and we're going to cover the 5 main types. Remember, different rules and restrictions apply to each one. Immediate relative classification is an American citizen who's over 21 years of age who has the following immediate relatives that they can bring to America. So you're an American citizen who's applying for your husband or wife, for children who are under 21 and who are not married, and for your parents. The immediate relative classification or immigration petition is typically processed within 1 year, and that's because there are no visa limitations on any country and no waiting periods. So once you file your petition or application, it goes through the processing period, and there is no additional quota or waiting period on top of that. You will see later on how that comes into play. Let's start with the family-sponsored preference 1, and that's an American citizen over 21 who can also apply for his or her unmarried children over 21. So you're a parent applying for your unmarried child who's over 21. That's not an immediate relative classification. It's called the family-sponsored preference 1 classification. For the second preference, which is a family-sponsored preference number 2, you are an American resident who's applying for your husband or wife and any unmarried children. Those unmarried children under 21 have a different quota or waiting period. Those unmarried children over 21 have slightly longer period. And the definition of unmarried children includes divorced children. Family-sponsored preference number 3 is for American citizen who's applying for their married sons or daughters, married children. And this would include your married children's children who are under 21, your grandchildren under 21. The fourth and final family-sponsored preference is for an American citizen who's applying for his brother or sister and their husbands or wives and children under 21. Unlike immediate relatives, there are waiting times or waiting periods and limits on the number of applications that immigration visas are issued for each year. For example, some waiting periods are from 3 to 10 years, depending on the country of origin and the type of preference. So that's the difference between the family-sponsored preferences and the immediate relative category or classification. To check on the waiting period and limits, go to the U.S. State Department website at http://travel.state.gov Visa Bulletin. The Visa Bulletin is issued on a month-to-month basis, and it sets forth which countries have their own special waiting periods, and all others, which would be, if your country is not on there, then that's the waiting period or quota. We like to refer to it as a quota for your country. So the waiting period begins when the application is filed with the Immigration Service, and then you see how long it will take. But first you must file it. To establish your relationship with the American citizen or American resident, you need the following documents. First, the petitioner needs to show that he or she is a U.S. citizen or U.S. resident. Then you have to show the relationship between the U.S. citizen or resident and the relative who lives abroad. And that's shown by birth certificates, marriage certificates typically. And this is just to get the application filed. The application and supporting documents are filed in America by the petitioner at the local district immigration office. Now, what happens next is that this office, what we refer to as the USCIS, or United States Citizenship and Immigration Service, they process the application and typically approve or disapprove it. If they disapprove it, it's because you did not include supporting documents such as birth certificates, marriage certificates, photographs are needed between husbands and wives, and so forth. Once your application or petition is approved at the USCIS level, it is then sent to the National Visa Center, or the NVC, for the completion of the process. This typically takes about 6 months before you'll be scheduled for an interview at the American consulate in your home country. Now, this period of time, let's say 6 months with the USCIS and 6 months with NVC, so it's generally about a year, that would be for an immediate relative classification. For the family-sponsored classification, you have to look at the waiting period or quotas. At the NVC, they'll request biographical information from you, supporting documents, affidavit of support, medical exams. All these things will have to be shown before you're scheduled for an interview at the American Embassy where your relative lives abroad. Now, there's also a process called an adjustment of status, and that is, if your relative is in the U.S., in America, the application does not go through the NVC, but it goes through a different process. What happens is only those people, those relatives, whether it's immediate relative classification or those family-sponsored preferences that are open or available now, which means, for example, you filed a petition from 5 years ago and it's now available, assuming you're eligible on all other bases, you can file your petition for adjustment of status from, let's say, a tourist to a U.S. resident and have your interview done at a local district office where your U.S. resident or American relative lives. For more information about this type of visa, simply type in your name, email address, immigration visa you are interested in learning more about at the bottom of the Facebook page. Then press the Submit button. When you press the Submit button, you will receive in your email the slides of this presentation along with an immigration guide with more information on how you and your family can come to America with this visa. We will not share your information with anyone for any reason. Take care, and I look forward to speaking with you soon.